June 14, 2025. The South China Sea was a vast mirror, so calm it could make anyone believe the day would be peaceful. Morning sunlight poured down, turning the surface into a golden silk ribbon. In the distance, seagulls wheeled lazily, and the gentle waves lapped against the hull in a familiar rhythm. On the deck of the guided missile cruiser, USS Princeton, every activity unfolded according to the standards of a freedom of navigation patrol, disciplined, orderly, and completely unhurried. Sailors rotated shifts, officers checked equipment, and the radar spun steadily, like the beating heart of a giant steel beast. Voice emotion serious. But beneath that serene surface, the sky and the sea were quietly preparing for a confrontation, one that could shake the entire regional order. A clash where a single mistake could turn the page of history. Emphasis level strong, in a way no one wanted. 09:23 hours. The Princeton's FY-1 radar began painting a target with unusual movement. At first, it was just a faint blip 200 kilometers away, but in less than 90 seconds, its speed jumped from 18 to 30 knots. Data was quickly analyzed. It was a Chinese Type 052D destroyer. Moments ago, it had been loitering as if observing, but now it was suddenly charging toward the U.S. carrier strike group. No one aboard Princeton knew that, hundreds of miles away, China's high command had just sent the order. Emphasis level strong. Intercept the Americans. Force them to back down. But naval history has proven time and again that confronting the U.S. Navy head-on in open waters is an emphasis level strong strategic act of suicide. 09:26 hours. Inside Princeton's Combat Information Center, CIC, the target was now fully classified, a Chinese Navy Type 052D destroyer, threat level moderate-high. The tactical action officer watched the enemy's vector with an almost icy calm, the kind of composure that comes from knowing you hold overwhelming firepower. On the deck, 122 vertical launch cells bristled with SM-6 and SM-2 missiles, each capable of sending any target in range to the ocean floor. This confidence didn't come from luck. It came from 75 years of U.S. Navy dominance at sea. They knew every distance, every speed, every calculation tilted in their favor. For them, this wasn't just a patrol. This was the stage for American power. As the target continued its approach, the Emphasis Cooperative Engagement Capability System automatically fed tactical data to the entire Nimitz carrier strike group. Every ship, every aircraft, every weapon system saw the same tactical picture, a luxury the Chinese Navy could only dream of. Destroyers, USS Chenghoon and USS Kidd immediately adjusted formation, creating a dense shield around the carrier. Overhead, an E-2D Hawkeye early warning aircraft maintained altitude at 25,000 feet, sweeping the battle space with a 400 nautical mile reach, detecting any suspicious movement. When China's J-15 fighters launched from the carrier Emphasis Shandong, U.S. radars instantly painted them at maximum range. While the J-15 struggled to climb with barely half fuel tanks, the U.S. FA-18E Super Hornets launched at full combat weight, linked via Link 16, sharing sensor data in real time. Voice emotion tense. At sea, Princeton's sonar had already tagged the unusually noisy signature of a Chinese Type 039 diesel-electric submarine. In undersea warfare, revealing your position is equivalent to signing your own death warrant. 0943 hours. Intelligence from the Emphasis RC-135 rivet joint electronic reconnaissance aircraft confirmed the enemy's intent. J-15 pilots were requesting permission to conduct aggressive close passes on U.S. ships. To the US Navy, this was almost comical. By the time Beijing approved such maneuvers, the tactical picture could have changed 3 times. Inside Princeton's CIC, discipline reigned. When the Chinese destroyer's EMPS Type 346A phased array radar suddenly locked fire control quality tracking on the USS Nimitz, equivalent to pointing a loaded gun, the American response was calm but poised to destroy within seconds if necessary. In the air, a reckless J-15 pilot dove toward a US FA-18. Within seconds, the Top Gun-trained American pilot flipped the tables, sliding into the Chinese fighter's 6 o'clock firing position. One squeeze of the trigger would have ended the fight, but professionalism held his fire. The message was clear: the US could kill, but didn't need to, unless forced. Beneath the waves, China's Type 039 diesel-electric submarine made a fatal mistake, raising its snorkel to recharge batteries just 15,000 yards from Princeton. The USSQ-89 sonar had been tracking it for over an hour, ready to unleash an emphasis ASROC at a moment's notice. 1430 hours. The USS Nimitz unleashed the largest show of force in years. 48 aircraft launched in rapid succession from her deck, including emphasis at FA-18E/F Super Hornets, EA-18G Growlers, and E-2D Hawkeyes. Engines roared like thunder, the sky turning to steel. The Growlers led the electronic warfare campaign, turning the Shandong's radar screens into chaos, filled with hundreds of false contacts. Break Times' Virginia-class nuclear attack submarine, shadowing the Chinese formation for 8 days, suddenly surfaced just 6 nautical miles from the Shandong, then slipped back under after 90 seconds. Like a cold whisper, "We are always here." In the air, the J-15s ran out of fuel. After futile maneuvers, forced to return with emergency lights flashing. At 16:23 hours, the Shandong carrier strike group withdrew, citing emphasis completion of scheduled drills. Break time motion triumphant. But everyone knew they had failed their test. The lesson that day echoed across the seas. The South China Sea is not Beijing's backyard. It is a body of water the US Navy has and will continue to protect as emphasis, America's 6th Great Lake. Images from that day's operation quickly spread across the global intelligence community. Photographs of the Virginia-class submarine surfacing in broad daylight, steam rising from her deck, became an unmistakable symbol. The US can appear anywhere, anytime. Voice emotion tense. Western military analysts noted this was not merely a show of force, it was a calculated warning. It demonstrated America's mastery of multi-domain operations, from air, surface, subsurface to cyber, working in perfect synchronization to form a battle network no adversary could penetrate. Voice emotion grim Beijing. Senior commanders were forced to confront a cold reality. In any direct naval confrontation, China remains at least 20 years behind. And in naval warfare, that gap is a chasm. As the sun set over the South China Sea that day, the emphasis USS Nimitz and her strike group continued their steady course, as if nothing unusual had occurred. That is the US Navy's style. Decisive when needed. Emphasis, yet always calm, professional, and grounded in respect for international law. The events of June 14, 2025 were not just a tactical victory. They reaffirmed America's role as a cornerstone of global maritime freedom. Break emphasis level strong. The message was clear. Anyone seeking to challenge the international maritime order would face not just a fleet, but over a century of US mastery of the seas. The South China Sea, as Americans like to say, will remain emphasis the sixth Great Lake. And here, freedom will always be defended. On June 15, 2025, just one day after the South China Sea incident, the White House convened an emergency meeting attended by Pentagon leaders, the State Department, and the intelligence community. The briefing, supported by satellite imagery and real-time intelligence, showed that every Chinese move had been tracked from start to finish. Some officials proposed leveraging this victory to advance security agreements with regional allies, from Japan to the Philippines. Break time of 500 caution. But there were also voices warning that Beijing would not forget this humiliation and would seek ways to retaliate in the future. While ships continued their missions offshore, in the background, the hotline phones between Washington and Beijing rang incessantly. The Chinese side accused the United States of provocation and intrusion into their waters. Break time's emotion firm. The U.S. responded that it was merely exercising freedom of navigation under international law and would continue to do so. Break time equals 600 Mosin serious. These exchanges were not about seeking consensus, but about sending a message. Both sides were prepared for future confrontations. While the world's cameras focused on the imposing scenes at sea, another battle, unseen yet equally fierce, was already underway. In a subterranean command center in Hawaii, U.S. Navy cyber warfare specialists launched an operation to penetrate the South Sea Fleet's command networks. Voice emotion firm. The goal, disrupt data flows so that Chinese units would receive orders just minutes late, a delay long enough to change the course of events. Meanwhile, American electronic reconnaissance satellites continuously swept over Hainan's skies, capturing every radar pulse and military transmission, building an electronic map of each radar site and every communication frequency of the adversary. In response, China's cyber warfare units attempted counterattacks, trying to infiltrate U.S. ship navigation systems. Break time emotion serious, but the American cyber defenses, enhanced by artificial intelligence, detected and neutralized every threat within seconds. Voice emotion, this was a battle without smoke or gunfire, yet losing it could be as devastating as any defeat on a conventional battlefield.